Hi, Jaishankar. Nice to e-meet you for the first time. And thank
Yes.
you so much for sharing your film with us here at Indie Meme. It's such a pleasure, to see this gem of a cinema come from Canada. And it's really, I have like so many thoughts, so many questions about the film, and I appreciate your time in taking part and answering some of the questions.
Thank you, Sachin. I'm glad to be part of the festival. I'm curious to see how US people will receive my film. So I
Totally.
wish I could have been there, but anyway, I will. I hope the festival team will inform me how it goes.
Absolutely. And to kind of begin with, when I first watched the film, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I want to talk a little bit about the opening scene, which is a marriage proposal scene, where the groom comes in,
Yeah.
he sits, and they get offered the Be Fresh drink. And then he asks, "What exactly is this?" And then she starts off, right? She starts off her tactics, and it was loaded with so much humor that I didn't see that coming, and it really cracked me up because moments like that, like the opening scene, I'm sure there must have been some sort of, I'm curious to see if there was any sort of like improvisation that was done from the actors. Did they contribute for the humor, or did you have a very clear idea of how it must go?
So it was written, but there was improvisation. Uh, 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 like the I used to rewrite a few scenes based on the situation, what I'm going to shoot the next day, and if anything, especially in villages, it's very uncertain, so we can't go as per the plan. But yeah, there is a definitely improvisation from, and the actors contributed a lot, and the their mannerism and it's their dialect and all helped to bring the humor.
Totally, totally. And which brings me to my next point. I want to talk a little bit about the actors, right? All of the actors were so phenomenal. They were so terrific in how they were emoting. Their face was, I don't know, especially our titular character, Shivamma, she has a very magnetic screen presence. I read a little bit about your previous interviews in Busan and everywhere where you said you scouted for like local talent. They were all of them are non-professional actors. And even our main character, Shivama, you said she had never faced the camera before in her life, right? If that was the case, how was the whole directing process like? Like, did you had to go through like any rehearsals, or was it more of like on the go where you were seeing what they were performing and you would give your directions? And I'm just curious if you can walk us through your directing actors sort of phase. That would be lovely.
So I wrote the script in my office, and it's a completely fictional script based on my research. I did a lot of research, and I went to a lot of multi-level marketing companies as a research process. So once I had the fictional script ready, then I decided the place, which is my hometown. So uh, like so I scouted all the houses, and I went there and I introduced myself that I'm son of this person. Then they all knew my father, so I introduced and I told them that I'm a filmmaker, and I showed them my previous short film. So they got to know what kind of film I'm planning to make. My previous short film was also, yeah, the treatment was similar, and also in the same dialect. So, so they got an idea, and so I think I went to some 700 houses. Like the village has some 700 houses, and I visited all the houses. I made sure I uh, I won't miss anyone. And this when I come across this lady, so after I selected the cast, and based on their personality, I rewrote the screenplay. So that is what helped me, and helped them also. So they were not forced to do something which they are not. So uh, and also I chose people who met the characteristics which I had written. So the characteristics I had written for the protagonist is she's extremely talkative and manipulative, and she's very resilient. So all the characteristics were matching by this person whom I when I met her, and all the people are exactly the characteristics I have written. So
Amazing. And it really shows too, like just with how she walks, her body language, especially I'm talking about Shivamma, the main character, like she does come across as a terrific salesperson. If I was her customer, I would buy Be Fresh Nutella. And she's really that convincing. And like she has that the spirit to not give up. And that really was coming across. And it's amazing that you were able to scout them way before. And and that process is very interesting, where you observed their traits and you reworked some of the scenes, which is very, very interesting to notice. And I'm sure it'll also strike a bigger chord in the US. You should try to distribute a lot in the US too, because even in the US we have these products like uh, there's this product called Amway. I don't know if you're familiar about it, like Amway. Like we got, the similar. I was in a similar situation with a salesperson in Amway, where I was like, oh, I have to get out of here. And
yeah, I took Shivamma to a lot of motivational events and such kind of companies, and there she heard lot of speeches, and she actually got inspired to do that kind of business.
wow,
And like she was telling, after shooting, I will start doing business like that. So
let's do it, kind of a thing.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. But what is more fascinating is, so this is on a plot level, right? You've written this script as a plot, like there's a set of events that are happening. But what you were also able to capture on a subtext level is even more fascinating. Like some things that I really observed was the relationship Shivamma and her daughter have with her son, for example, right? You were almost hinting at how rooted the elements of patriarchy might be. A simple dialogue from the son when he says, "Oh, you think you're smarter than me." He says that to Shivamma, like, "What, do you think you're smarter than me? Why is there no food today?" Like, it's so ingrained in, uh, I don't know, in people's minds. And this is something that I've also observed whenever I go back to. Is that something that came out in the research process that you've observed, or did you always wanted to plant that subtext through writing?
uh, I think it is when I started thinking in the character's perspective, those dialogues came. This son is new age guy, and he thinks he knows everything because he has access to phone, and Shivamma, she is restricted to that village. Her knowledge is limited. So yeah, when I started thinking to in the character's perspective while writing the dialogues and while writing the scenarios, uh, so I think it is the yeah, it is what uh, drew me to thinking. But uh, lot of subtexts have come without me intentionally writing them to be to sound like the way they have sounded. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. And the reason I'm asking the subtext is also there is one powerful, which is my favorite moment in the entire film that I want to talk about. Again, this is where it's a kind of a moment where it transcends into becoming something else. It's a kind of a moment which doesn't just stay in the realm of your film, but it tackles something bigger, where you are really trying to make like a social commentary. But the moment that I'm talking about is when Shivamma goes to other villages to sell the product when she gets banned in her own village. And there is another elderly woman who asks her with her grandson, and she says like, "Oh, this will cure anything. Do you think this will cure him? This will cure this boy?" And we see the boy is mentally challenged and like disabled. And then the woman herself says, "Do you think you can cure him? You can't, right? So just go go away." And that moment, I don't know why I was so drawn to it so personally, because it transcends into something else. I'm not just thinking about Shivamma's world, but I'm thinking about our society in general, right? Like even how all of these marketing, even to buy that product, you have to have a certain kind of privilege. And there are a lot of other underprivileged people living around, where, but I'm just curious how that moment came. And, was that in the writing process? Was that something you discovered when you were researching? Because it has a very documentarian kind of an eye to it. It's almost like journalistic, where you're exploring and you're sort of showing us the lifestyle of how these people are living. Like look at the current state, and then how these marketing. Like, if you, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Uh, yeah, while thinking of the montage when she goes to sell the product after facing some obstacle in her village, I was finding people to whom all she can go and approach. And during that process, I came across this boy, and yeah, and then I thought like, do do we have such kind of products which can cure these kind of uh, the what do you call disabilities which are caused by the which is from the nature. So and the granny was like okay have and it is like I just let Shivamma ask the pitch that to the grandmother, and it is what, like, because she is taking care of that boy, that is exactly what she said when she was pitching. So it is not written.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
like a guerrilla style of
Yeah.
treatment for that scene. Yeah.
So that's really like a documentary style. It's an observational documentary where you just let the reality unfold in front of you
Yes.
when Shivam.
Yes.
That's such a brilliant, and that's again what I'm trying to get at. It's like there's no way we could have that's a written that's there's no way that's a performance. That's what I'm saying. It's an out and out
Yes.
outcry of people living in that situation, and they're really expressing themselves in the most natural way, and your camera just happened to catch it, which is
Ye-
so beautiful. So there is the beautiful way of integrating non-fiction into your fiction, and to create these moments, which is fantastic.
Yes. All the scenes which we see in the cities, the bald guy selling the product to the bald guy, and all that are like without their knowledge, we have recorded it. So
Amazing, amazing. That is so inventive. That is so inventive. Great, great. Then I think I had one more couple of other questions that I wanted to ask you. One thing I wanted to ask you was about the visual language in which you've composed. You've made certain choices with the shot taking, and like how you staged a couple of scenes. There is one interesting pattern that I noticed. It happens when Shivamma is confronting her son, and when Shivamma is confronting her daughter. Whenever that conflict is there, you decide to stay on a two shot, right? You decide, like, okay, we see both of them in the frame, but you never show us like a close up or of her face or of his face between, was there like, what was the intention behind it?
Uh, so the treatment was decided in such a way that I would prompt the actors to emote some, to react to one situation, and especially when we are working with non-actors, it's difficult to say cut and bring them to the same emotion. So we decided to use two cameras, and one is on the wide or mid frame, and other one is on the reaction of the other person. So this is the treatment we chose, and in both the shots, when Shivama is talking to the daughter and when Shivama is talking to the boy, uh, yeah, it was a conscious decision to not to cut to their faces because their act itself is engaging enough and uh, real enough. So, so we decided to let the two shots itself not to go to the close shot of any person.
Amazing, and that's a very skilled way to go about when you're directing non professional actors too, and that's such a smart way. And you know that shot really holds. Like all those shots really hold. They have a power of their own, and they do speak a lot. Going back a little bit about the genesis of the project too, right? Like, okay, you've written the script, but to execute it, we would need a producer. How was this whole process to find the right producer for this? And how did you get attached with Mr. Rishabh Shetty, who's a big name in India right now, right? And like how he
Yes.
supported, because the film is on such a small scale with an extremely low budget. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that as to how you found the producer and what was his inputs like in the film.
So Rishabh Shetty sir has an eye for like these kind of voices. If he finds any unique voice in the region, in his circle, he notices it and he supports them. So that's how he has selected and produced films like Pedro and Shivamma, and Pedro director's next film Vagachipan. uh, so I had made a short film, and I had sent it to a short film festival where Rishabh Shetty sir was the jury in that, and there he liked my work, and he offered me a slot in his anthology. Uh, so and I directed a short film that, and like that's how we were in constant touch. And when I conceived this idea, I pitched it to him, and he really liked, and he supported me, and he produced the film. That's how the film got made.
Awesome. Was there any like creative input from him on a script level, or did he see like a rough cut and was he giving you notes in the editing process too, or?
Yes, but one thing about Rishabh sir is he knows that his style and his way of thinking and our thinking is different, and so he gives this liberty of making our own mistakes. And yeah, once he saw the rough cut, he gave us some points that you could do this better, you could do this better. But while shooting, he doesn't uh, involve, and he gives us
Yeah,
he lets us shoot everything in our capacity, and
right,
he lets us make our own mistakes.
right. Which is wonderful because his sensibilities are very sort of different, and how he has this ability to even, like support and guide you into providing feedback. That is also really wonderful to hear.
Yeah, this collaboration always helps, when a superstar or when a star helps people like us, more people will get to know films like these, which is very difficult in other case.
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
they're
and
really the crowd pullers. They see his name and they people come to the theaters.
yes,
Wonderful, yeah, and I hope there'll be many more such collaborations between you both.
hope so too.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to ask you was the choice of the collaboration with the sound designer, and just how beautiful the soundscape is in your film, and the choice of not having any music in there, but just build the sounds of that's there. And one specific sound which I was a big fan of is the sound of the mixie, the mixing kind of going, and that is such a powerful sound. And in the end, when that one customer comes back to Shivamma to purchase for more, and when the mixie sound starts again, it again like it cracked me up, and it was. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the sound design process.
The idea was to bring the entire story to the sound, like in the last frame when when we hear the mixer sound, so that is when we it concludes something that Shioma is continuing again. So yeah, that is why we had to establish. We had set the mixer sound in the uh, when she starts the business, and so yeah, this was the idea I got, and it was inspired from Abbas Kiarostami's films, like the film Through the Olive Trees, so where the entire story comes down to two dot, like where the boy is chasing the girl, and so that frame had impacted me a lot. And when I was writing the script, I also wanted to bring the entire story to one particular material. It can be sound or something visual. And because I chose the nutritional product, so like
Yeah,
I brought it to the mixer sound. Uh, and yeah, the sound engineer is an expert in this field. He has worked in project like which won an Oscar, the Elephant Whisperers. It's a short documentary. He helped me a lot. He helped me a lot in designing the sound and how to use the sound in the storytelling aspect.
amazing, beautiful, and it really, really comes across. It's such a dense and rich soundscape that I found, and it's so refreshing to see a film without the traditional use of music and whatnot. But those were all the questions that I had for you, Jaishankar. And once again, I really want to thank you for your time, for participating in this Q&A session, and for sharing your wonderful film with us here in Texas. And I really hope Shivamma goes to find new audience as the year progresses, and really wish you all the success. And we can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, Sachin. Thank you. It was so nice talking to you, and I'm excited to know how Texas audience take my film.